He may just seem like he's just the token hunk from Tyler Perry's House of Payne, but he's so much more. Let's see what life Allen Payne really leads behind the screen. Allen Payne was born on July 7, 1968, in Harlem, New York. His family was fairly middle class, and he was the firstborn child of Allen Roberts and Barbara Reeves. But you'll notice that Allen's surname isn't the same as his parents. He was born Allen Roberts and changed his surname to Payne when he wanted to bank on his appearance on the House of Payne show. Harlem wasn't an easy city to grow up in at the time. It was mostly low income and had a notorious reputation in America. Part of that reputation can be attributed to how Harlem was the birthplace of a lot of black revolutionaries in the struggle for civil rights in the 60s and 70s. Figures like Malcolm X, Adam Clayton, Queen Mother Moore, and Preston Wilcox used it as a launchpad for their movements and empowerment activities. Allen had a relatively normal childhood, though, and hadn't expressed any particular talents or interests throughout the course of his school years. He went to high school in Pennsauken Township, New Jersey, and graduated in 1986. For a few years, he worked odd jobs in the city and auditioned for small roles on a few shows. In his first 2 years out of high school, he saw little success in his acting career and had to practice a lot. He landed very few of the roles that he auditioned for. Payne's career breakthrough role was in 1990 when he landed a role in the iconic television series The Cosby Show. He played Lance Rodman, a charming and charismatic college student and boyfriend to the character Charmaine. He was present for 2 seasons of the show. With that credit under his belt, his acting started to gain traction, leading to opportunities on other African-American comedy sitcoms like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Malcolm and Eddie. He also got roles in films like The Walking Dead, where he played Dead Mike and Vampire in Brooklyn as Detective Justice. In the 2000s, his roles started to slow down, doing only a handful of appearances in a few years. In 2007, he was cast as C.J. Payne in Tyler Perry's House of Payne. This was the role that changed his life acting career and even his name. For 5 years, he was consistently on the main cast of a hit sitcom comedy with a majority African-American cast. Over the next few years, it would become his only consistent sitcom role appearance in his entire career. House of Payne is a comedy based on generational conflicts in African-American families. When CJ and his kids are forced to move into Pop's house, there are 3 generations of the African-American family under one roof. The show is modeled after a lot of sitcoms that came before it, and the comedy is pretty formulaic. Allen's role in the show was the most dynamic, as his character was forced to sway between the extremes of emotion more than others. He also had to maintain a calm and collected persona and add some comedy to the performance. Even though he was finding success in this show and giving the performance of his lifetime, his career was on a relative plateau compared to his 90s performances. Allen was on this show for so long that it became the marker of his career. He didn't take any film roles or any minor roles in other television shows during the entire 5-year run of the show. It also turns out that outside of his career as an actor, Allen is quite active as an activist. Although he doesn't have as much of a platform to speak on issues as, say, bigger celebrities like Tyler, he gives space in interviews to discuss his identity as a black person in America, poverty, and other social issues. A lot of people made speculations about his racial identity because of the way he looked, which isn't stereotypically African American. However, Allen identifies as black and often speaks about how people's assumption of his racial identity used to cause internal conflict when it came to how justified he felt in identifying the way he did. Over time, he educated himself and learned to grow past these criticisms. He's also made statements along the lines of being an advocate for equal pay in the acting industry, acknowledging that a lot of the time the actresses he worked with were paid a lot less. And this was normalized in Hollywood because the production felt that they could get away with it. Even though Allen is a relatively small actor, he's garnered a following for his television hunk status from the 2000s. Payne continues to captivate audiences with his talent and charm. From his humble beginnings in Harlem to his career in Hollywood, Allen Payne's journey is one that shows how sometimes the star on screen is a regular person just like you. Remember to click the subscribe button and notification bell to keep learning more about Black Hollywood stars you almost missed. In 2021, Allen Payne Dead was trending on a small scale on Twitter. A YouTube channel created a dedication video for his death, stating that there was a sudden announcement that he had tragically passed away in an accident. Most celebrities subjected to this sort of hoax are the king who isn't the most active on social media, making it easy for people to not be able to verify if this is true for a while. So for a while, the rumor got around just fine because Allen and his representatives, if he has any at all, wouldn't have been very quick to respond. Even more so because at the time he was working on the project California Love, a project that started out pretty optimistic but had been stuck in production hell for a few years. The video has since been deleted after tweets got around to debunking the statement. But why is Allen Payne so unpresent? Or rather, why is his acting career not very diverse after he started working on the House of Payne? Since 2006, Payne has only been involved in 2 projects outside of the House of Payne. From the perspective of most actors, it would look like he doesn't want to act, or that he's sort of stopped acting. In 2012, the show House of Payne was canceled. Payne stopped acting that same year, not because the show ended, but because his mother passed away that year too. He went through an emotional and mental crisis during the time of his grief and felt that he no longer understood himself. He stated in interviews that his intention was to learn more about himself and that it's important for an actor to understand their core self, especially because people are constantly watching them. His search for self-enlightenment and dealing with his grief forced him to go on an acting hiatus that was supposed to last a few months but ended up spanning over half a decade. After this, he thought it was appropriate to return but only made appearances in The Paynes in 2018 and the main cast of the new House of Payne seasons from 2020 and onwards. The show started up again as normal after 8 years of being canceled. This is usually pretty risky because your audience may have moved on after a decade and so much change. But the show is doing relatively well because of the dedicated audience who enjoy comfort watching the show. Allen Payne keeps his personal life relatively private, and information about his relationships, marriages, and children is not widely publicized. From interviews, though, we do know that he has a wife named Janine Payne. Regarding how he met the people he may have been involved with romantically, there isn't specific information available about Allen Payne's personal relationships, how he met Janine, or any information about her whereabouts and occupation. His team must run a pretty tight ship to protect their privacy. Like many celebrities, Payne likely met her through social and professional circles, including within the entertainment industry. He also doesn't appear to have any children, or at least any children that he shares information about. Because of his obscurity, people found it easy to make unfounded speculations about his lifestyle and sexuality. Allen wouldn't be able to confirm or deny any rumors, and it would be really difficult for him to do so anyway. For this reason, he hasn't made any statements to clarify the rumors. However, they are likely false. Allen Payne lives in New York City. He hasn't made information about his home or what it looks like, but you know what we do have information about? The House of Payne set design. You may not have realized because you're used to the floor plan of a show set in a home is a little bit awkward to actually live in. Usually the TV room, kitchen, and dining room all face the audience, so the actors don't have to strain themselves to show facial expressions while acting. The set of House of Payne has a similar design, However, unlike other sitcoms, the floor plan is more livable. They instead modeled the set from the layout of a real home that was missing a wall, so you could see inside. Actors enter stage left directly into the TV room and have to walk all the way across to get to the kitchen, like in a lot of middle-class American homes. This style was innovated by Tyler Perry, who didn't want to make the mistake of a show like Friends, where the apartment was unrealistically large and theatrical, even though most characters were supposed to be middle class. The apartment they lived in was disproportionately affluent, and Tyler avoided this problem by basically stealing the design from a regular home. 11 with a net worth in the millions, Allen leads a relatively middle-class life. In an old Instagram post from 2023, he was spotted outside of a restaurant with his white E-Class E350 Mercedes in the background. The car retails for nearly $100,000 and is likely Allen Payne's preferred mode of getting around since he casually drove it into the parking for a pub and grill. There have also been claims that he owns a Lexus, although he hasn't been spotted in it. Click on this next video and discover the elusive inner life of your next favorite Black Hollywood star. What was Allen's most iconic show or film? Comment down below.